Anyway, now as far as the rest of this, and this is going to be brief because for whatever reason the last one was 10 minutes. I know it wasn't 10 minutes. Is how many people have ever watched Harry Potter's movie and all the little different series that are in series but add-ons to non-add-on video? That means that when I say non-add-on, it means that you can't add on to a video because the video is done as soon as it goes out on the shelf and into the box. Now you may be able to add stuff to it, but you more than likely aren't going to be able to record any more video, give or take your equipment. At least residentially and residential commercial, you wouldn't be able to without actually destroying what you got. Because it's rather costly to get the stupid software to actually just tell you, just add on here. But anyway, it wasn't before, and like if you've read anything or listened to anything on YouTube, it sounds like I'm chattering, but not really chattering. The ear is chattering. It sounds like I'm just rambling, but some of it is I'm rambling, but some of it is actually interference from other things. And this is because of other people. Other people drive by and they'll flash a light and whatnot. They'll stop and they'll put what they think is a cup on the ground and they'll drive off. They'll leave something behind. And then this invisible thing goes running around. Some say that's a spiritual thing. No, it's not a spiritual thing. The trick often used in magic, how to make a card disappear and actually disappear, is very, very simple and whatnot. You take and stick your finger in your mouth, you put it on a card, and you don't pray to it or worship it. You just simply direct the card to take over the card the way you want to do it, but at the same time, it's cost that you will have to bear. The cost of it is, and take the card, pull it out, don't put spit on it, but just hold it up in front of you. Don't matter if it's 2 to king to ace, that card has to obtain one thing. And how some people have it set up is the card gets soaked. So all of a sudden you got a deck of cards there, and some of them will put it against the deck of cards, and some will just put it against a single card. But anyway, to make that card literally disappear and still be there simultaneously is often a mental trick. Some people take to a step farther. The step farther is actually making the card disappear by disintegrating the card. This also has some downfalls and backsides if you're a magician, such as anything of actually using real magic is to make sure you don't displace it. Now, some will say that the magic is magic, but I know it comes from archives. Archives, in the real sense of the word, are pyramids in some senses, caves some senses, and other things you often see in a museum. Now, some people will put it against dead skulls because there's no one there, which nothing happens to them, but it happens to the skull. So maybe you went to a magical show and the guy actually did what is called real appearance magic. At least it appears real. You can't debunk it. No one has done this type of magic in over 200 years, as I like to refer to it. But at the same time, it kills faster than you can actually control it. In the sense of one thing. Is it's easier to do a video play or a camera play than it is to do real magic. And as you make the card disintegrate, in the sense of disintegrating, some people will try to do the illusion of you doing it. Like, you go to Disney, bring a little kid up, make the little kid hold the card, and the easy way to do it, and I'll be honest with you, I used to use a card stacker, and I took the card stacker apart and whatnot, and all I do is a real quick hand trick. If you see me, I'll be taking, if you hand me a poker card. I'll flip it through my fingers and whatnot, and then I'll do certain things. I get my fingers oriented to the fact of a certain movement. So if I were to do this, because I've seen a guy do this at Disney and I called him on it and whatnot, for me, I would just simply load it into the card reader. Some people say, oh, you got a card loader, there. So what? You saw that a card loader on my wrist. It's better than your kid going home without its face. Because real magic, real MGC really does cost and can cost someone. Now, how's this done? It's often done by people making the one mistake back in 1980. 1980, they made the most huge mistake out there. They used radiant light. So maybe you're a witch, maybe you're maybe you're someone who just likes to use certain things. Radiant light, if it's pulverized and it's done in certain ways, because sometimes they screw up radiant light, or the crystals you use that look like, that would look really cool sitting there in front of the dragon, in front of all this stuff, and it's often referred to as a mural. And then all of a sudden, someone comes along, cracks a battery, takes the powder out of the battery with a glove, dumps it on your little jewel there, which is often radiant light, which is somewhat porous in a sense. Means that it will accept things. So you turn the light on, it creates heat up inside, and all of a sudden you got acid gas being built up inside. So it'll go clouded. That's one thing they use with jewelry. You get a gem that's clouded, it has acid in it. They sealed it up. Take your little magnifying glass and look for the imperfection. If it's covered up by this fact of blindsided seeing, means that your left or right eye may slightly go towards your nose, then that's another thing. It's where someone has tampered with your EYE. Now, how can they do this? Well, one, they got to be kind of sick to do this. As you go in the cemetery, you take the little shovel and dig them up and take their skull. And then as you're standing there, you pull their eye out. And how do I know this? Because actually, in Europe, in Canada, and Australia, got to sit down and talk to someone by acting as a media person, wanting to know something, and then arrested them for screwing around with the dead, because there was too much of this. But let's get back to the radiant light and the card trick with the miner, often seen in Disney, which the guy got arrested for. But anyway, he takes this and he places what they call king's magic. You might be interested in referring to this. This is people that normally who know how to pull themselves, or how to make a dead person come back. A real king, not a fake king, not a religious king, not an occult king, not I won't say black king, but blacks aren't allowed to be kings, and they know this for a specific reason. And yes, I am referring to skin color at that point. Brown is another one. The only reason their skin is black and brown is because they keep pulling themselves back out of themselves. Sometimes this happens with residential and common people who have been tampered with, either from infancy or their dead has been tampered with in a cemetery. Like throwing a curse against a cemetery would be a really stupid idea against what they refer to as a priest calming ceremony, where a priest might actually go in, and maybe you got a ton of Christians inside a cemetery, and he'll just stand there and read out loud for no freaking reason. This is the common problem that happens with people who follow people. That's why even Google Plus can be the most dangerous place you've ever been. It's one thing that's destroyed more marriages than anyone's ever seen. But anyway, so this miner has his card, and what that guy does is he banks against something. And that means he'll normally, he may have his favorite penny or his favorite ring in there, and he'll totally blind everyone by normally mentally blocking the fact that you can see him moving. by displacing himself, putting his hand on the card, and then quickly turning around and making that card disappear by covering the card in the child's hand and whatnot. That's why a lot of people, when I look at a lot of people, I'll just kind of put my head down. Feel sorry for you. Your eyes are opened. Your eyes aren't open. Your eyes are pegged versus open. And this causes more problems than you think. Wow. 6 minutes. And it says 10:41. But at the same time, he takes the card and the trick goes wonderfully for him and whatnot. But at the same time, he has another problem. It's not only the child that's going to be hurting right now because he banked it against something that no one knows that is alive. And as far as jewels and whatnot, normally they don't work. But with acid gas, some light, like maybe you took a gem that was radiant and whatnot, made it work, made it look like a light and thought it was perfectly good. And someone, put acid on top, so the gem of sorts, heart, is now heating up some type of liquid acid. Now, this may sound, like I said, it may sound stupid. It often happens. Maybe this magician has 5 people trying to meditate a card out of the child's hand so quickly that your eye can't catch it. That may sound stupid. That's why most common magic tricks are the best ones, where you can debunk it right while you see it. Or at least it gives you a second to not see it, But with Blair Witch, it's a bit of a different story. Blair Witch's total story can be done real quick, less than a minute. It's about a little girl who had an infatuation with the animals she had, whether it would be a bird, a squirrel, a raccoon, and she loved animals. And she was told not to love animals. She was told to care for an animal. Caring for an animal, as in a word, having more than one not go-to, but it directs to more than one feeling in a person, is better than having so many kisses that it makes you happy, because it gets more annoying than it does make a person happy. Someone came along and just slaughtered everything. She saw what the world was doing. And when I say she saw what the world was doing, and this ain't preaching for some of you that like to use the word preaching, she got to see the ugly side of life. The slaughterhouses, the butchers, and whatnot. And it kind of turned bad, and she hung herself. Just so happened, her parents went down, took a vacation in Maryland. She was up in North Dakota with either her aunt or her uncle, and she went up in the woods, and she found a vine, a very sturdy vine. She wrapped the vine around her neck, put a knot, boom, jumped off the limb, snapped her neck. That's what Blair Witch is. Ever since then, it seems that anyone who actually hunts an animal in North or South Dakota often sees Blair Witch. And now that other picture, that girl walking, that looks like an apparition, is not Blair Witch, better known as Sarah Rinker. I think I almost got who it is, but I'm not going to say who exactly it is, but it seems like the antagonist is Marissa, or at least it sounds like Marissa from HMS, because this is not just a small problem anymore. This is directing to the fact of a government agent from Europe being killed over the fact of a few things. So the guy will be back over to ask a few Amish people here a few questions. So you don't answer, one-way trip right back to Europe in a prison.